If you just ended a relationship, you may be feeling some grief. Grief comes in all forms, whether it's a separation, whether you just broke up from a long term relationship, it's from a divorce, or even from losing someone to death. Grief comes in all forms. It's normal to have grief and to go through a grieving process, even after leaving a toxic relationship. Grief happens in three phases. The first phase of grief is shock. During the stage of shock, your mind is just in unbelief. You're confused about what's going on. You refuse to accept the reality of what has happened. And in a way, you can't believe that what happened happened. When you're in that shock stage, it's hard for you to understand and comprehend what has happened and the separation. In the shock stage, you can feel rejected and hurt. You can also feel humiliated and embarrassed. Most of the time during the shock stage, you don't want to really talk to people and you don't really want to work it out or face the issue head on because you're in shock. And that's the very first stage of grief. So if you're in that stage, understand and know that it's normal and that God can bring you through it. Now, it's also important to understand that during grief, you can go through the different phases back and forth. You can start off in shock and you can go into another phase and go back to shock. So it's very common for your emotions to go back and forth into the different stages of grief. The next stage of grief is review. In the review phase, you acknowledge the reality of what happened. You understanding what happened, you're taking a look at the situation, you're replaying the situation over in your mind. You begin to comprehend and understand what has happened in your life. During this stage of grief, you can become depressed, you can become stressed, you can even become angry and sad. It's normal to feel that way because you're finally starting to comprehend what has happened to you and the loss that you have to face. During the review phase, I want to encourage you to write down your feelings, write down your thoughts, pray, meditate, seek God, cry out to God instead of going to other things that are toxic that will fill your life and cause you more hurt. Many people go to binging. They go and they binge drink or they binge eat or they go out and they're partying and they're not facing the reality of things and they're not healing the correct way. They're just trying to numb those feelings through other toxic behaviors that's just not helping. So I want to encourage you to do some healthy things to heal through this process. Many of you may feel the healing through exercise and prayer and meditation. Me, myself personally, prayer and meditation is number one, in writing, journaling, writing out my thoughts and really getting it out there and really understanding what it is that's going on and what it is that I want to do in order to progress through this phase of grief. And the last phase of grief is acceptance. You finally accept what has happened. You no longer in shock. You're no longer figuring out and trying to, well, what was it, me, or what did I do wrong, or what happened? And you're no longer in this phase of trying to blame. You're just finally at a place where you've accepted what has happened. And in accepting it, instead of, like I said before, going into toxic things to try to heal, you're accepting it and then you're at a place of peace because you have put your trust in God and not yourself. When it comes to grief, it's so important to put your faith in the Lord. When you have faith, when you put your full trust in God, you can heal. You can get through it. God is a rock. He can bring you through any situation, no matter what it is you've lost in your life. God will bring you through. So in this final stage of grief, of acceptance, you finally know this is what it is. This is what happened. I've accepted it. I understand it. I'm going to get through this. And you make it up in your mind. You are going to get through this. This is not going to ruin your life. This is not going to control your life. This is not going to bring you down into depression, but you will rise. You will rise, and it's okay to cry. It's okay to be upset. You don't have to turn it around into negative consequences that affect your life. You don't have to turn it around to chasing after other people or to numbing yourself through sex and drugs and alcohol and other dysfunctional activities that cause more harm on your life. I speak more about grief in my book, Addicted to Pain, Renew Your Mind and Heal Your Spirit from a Toxic Relationship. I talk about grief and how to heal from grief. I'm going to read a quick excerpt from the book. It says, there are some things in life that are certain. Everyone will die and all love will end in pain. No matter how we experience romantic love, heartache is always the end result. Sometimes because of divorce, death, or due to a breakup. It may sound harsh, but when you open your heart to accept the reality of heartache, you can freely embrace love rather than avoid it. If you go through life being afraid of heartache, you deprive your chance of love because grief and pain are love's price ticket. Instead of fearing love, embrace and encourage. Instead of fearing love, embrace the courage required to receive it. And I love this scripture, Psalms 34:18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and save those who are crushed in spirit. Understand that God is faithful and He will heal you of what you're going through right now. That God knows your pain and that you can bring your pain to Him and He will set you free. I pray that this video blessed you. Thanks so much for watching this video. This is Rainey Howard. I want to encourage you to be blessed.